Alright, let's go. Number 12. The Stargate Chronometer. The CIA's classified attempt to use consciousness itself as a time machine. In the 1970s and 1980s, the Central Intelligence Agency ran a classified program called Stargate. Officially, it was about remote viewing, the idea that a trained mind could perceive distant locations without traveling there. But buried in the declassified files is a subprogram that most journalists skipped over. The researchers were not just trying to see other places, they were trying to see other times. The project was based at Fort Meade and later at the Stanford Research Institute in California. Trained subjects were placed in shielded rooms and given coordinates, not just spatial coordinates, but temporal ones, a date, a year, a century. The instruction was to describe what existed at that location at that time. Some of the results were disturbingly specific. In one session, a subject described structures on Mars roughly 1 million years ago, including a pyramid-like formation and a population facing extinction. In another, a subject described a prehistoric landscape with creatures matching no known fossil record. The CIA evaluators, who were skeptical scientists and not science fiction enthusiasts, noted that several descriptions contained details that were later verified by archaeological discoveries that had not yet been made at the time of the session. The program was shut down in 1995 and declassified in 2017. The official conclusion was that remote viewing produced no operationally useful intelligence. But the temporal sessions, the ones where subjects described the past, and in a few cases the future, were never formally debunked. They were simply filed away. The most disturbing detail is that the CIA did not deny that the subjects produced accurate information about times they could not have known about. They denied that the information was useful. And in the world of classified research, there is a difference between not real and not useful that nobody has ever publicly resolved. Number 11. The Philadelphia Experiment. The Navy destroyer that allegedly vanished from Philadelphia and reappeared in Norfolk, 300 miles away, in 1943. In October of 1943, the United States Navy was conducting classified electromagnetic experiments at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. The official purpose was to develop technology that would make ships invisible to enemy radar. The ship chosen for the experiment was the USS Eldridge, a Cannon-class destroyer escort. According to the accounts that emerged decades later, first from a man named Carl Allen, who claimed to have witnessed the event from a nearby merchant ship, the Navy succeeded beyond what anyone expected. The Eldridge did not just become radar invisible, it became optically invisible. Witnesses described a greenish fog surrounding the ship, a humming sound, and then the vessel vanishing entirely from the Philadelphia harbor. Moments later, according to the account, the Eldridge appeared in Norfolk, Virginia, over 300 miles to the south, remained visible there for several minutes, and then reappeared in Philadelphia. When the crew was examined, several were found embedded in the ship's metal bulkheads. Others were reported to be in states of severe psychological breakdown, and some reportedly vanished entirely. The Navy has always denied the experiment took place. No official documentation has ever been released confirming it. The USS Eldridge's service record shows it was in the New York area during the alleged dates, but the story has persisted for over 80 years, and the specific details, the green fog, the crew embedded in the hull, the Norfolk sighting, have never been fully explained as fabrication. The most unsettling aspect is that the theory behind the experiment was based on real physics. The idea was to use large electromagnetic fields to bend light around the ship, making it invisible. In 1943, that was speculative but not insane. And if the field was strong enough to bend light, some physicists have noted, it might have been strong enough to bend spacetime, which would explain not the invisibility, but the teleportation. And if spacetime was bent far enough, it might explain something else too. The fact that several crew members reportedly could not account for entire hours of their own experience. Number 10. The Chronovisor. The Vatican's alleged television that could see any moment in history. In the 1950s, an Italian Benedictine monk and scientist named Father Pellegrino Ernetti claimed to have been part of a team that built a machine capable of viewing any event in the past. He called it the Chronovisor. And according to Ernetti, the team that built it included some of the most respected scientists of the 20th century. Enrico Fermi, the father of the atomic bomb, and Wernher von Braun, the father of the American space program. The Chronovisor, as Ernetti described it, was not a camera pointed through time. It was a receiver. The theory was that every event in history emits a residual electromagnetic signature, a kind of cosmic recording that persists in space like light from a distant star. The Chronovisor was designed to detect and decode these residual signatures, converting them into visual and audio signals that could be displayed on a screen. Ernetti claimed the machine worked, He said he had viewed the crucifixion of Jesus. He said he had witnessed a performance of a lost Roman tragedy, Thyestes, by the playwright Quintus Ennius in 169 BC, and that he had transcribed portions of the Latin text. That transcription was later examined by scholars, some of whom noted that it contained archaic Latin constructions consistent with the period. The Vatican has never confirmed the Chronovisor's existence. Ernetti died in 1994 without ever allowing independent examination of the device. Shortly before his death, he reportedly wrote a letter admitting that parts of his account were fabricated, but he never specified which parts. The Catholic Church has never officially denied that the machine exists. And that silence, in the context of an institution that has cataloged and preserved every artifact it has ever possessed, is either meaningless or deeply significant. Number 9. The Nazi Bell. Die Glocke, a bell-shaped device that the Third Reich allegedly built to manipulate time itself. In the final years of World War II, deep inside a mine complex near the Wenceslaus mine in Lower Silesia, Poland, the Nazi regime was conducting a classified weapons program known only as Project Kronos. At its center was a device called Die Glocke, the bell, a metallic bell-shaped object roughly 3 meters tall, made of a heavy, unknown alloy, containing 2 counter-rotating cylinders, filled with a substance called Cerium-525, believed to be a mercury compound with unusual radioactive properties. The bell's alleged purpose was not propulsion. It was not a weapon in the conventional sense. According to the research of Polish journalist Igor Witkowski, who investigated post-war German documents and testimony from captured scientists, the bell was designed to generate intense, rotating electromagnetic fields strong enough to distort local space-time. The goal was time manipulation. The experiments reportedly had a lethal effect on the surrounding environment. Plants in the vicinity of the bell's test chamber decomposed into a black, greasy substance. Animals exposed to the field died within hours, their bodies crystallizing as if rapidly aged. Several scientists working directly with the device died under circumstances that were officially attributed to radiation exposure, but that witnesses described as something closer to instantaneous temporal decay, bodies that appeared to have aged decades in minutes. The bell vanished at the end of the war. Its lead scientist, Hans Kammler, an SS general who controlled all of Germany's secret weapons programs, disappeared in May 1945 and was never found. The bell itself has never been recovered. Some researchers believe it was moved to South America. Others believe it was moved to the United States as part of Operation Paperclip. A few believe it is still in the mine, buried and sealed, waiting for someone to find it and turn it on again. Number 8. The Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old Greek computer that predicted the future with impossible precision. In 1901, sponge divers off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera discovered a shipwreck from roughly 60 BC. Among the artifacts recovered was a corroded bronze device the size of a shoebox. It was called the Antikythera mechanism, and it would take scientists another century to fully understand what they were looking at. The device contains at least 37 precisely cut bronze gears, arranged in a complex mechanical system. When reconstructed, it functions as an astronomical computer. It can predict solar and lunar eclipses decades in advance. It tracks the positions of the 5 known planets of the ancient world. It models the moon's elliptical orbit with a level of precision that European astronomy would not match for another 1,500 years. But the most disturbing feature is not what the mechanism calculates, it is how it was made. The gear-cutting precision, the differential gearing system, the pin and slot mechanism that models the moon's variable speed, none of these technologies were supposed to exist in the ancient world. They are innovations that, according to the accepted timeline of technological development, should not have appeared until the 14th century at the earliest. The implication is that someone, in the 1st century BC or earlier, possessed mechanical engineering knowledge that was then lost for over a millennium. Who built it, where they learned to build it, and whether it was the only one ever made are questions that have never been answered. The mechanism sits in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, and every new imaging technique reveals more internal complexity, more gears, more inscriptions, as if the device was designed to reveal its secrets slowly, over centuries, to whoever was patient enough to keep looking. Number 7. The Montauk Project, the alleged American military program that used radar to punch holes in time. In the 1970s and 1980s, at a decommissioned Air Force radar station called Camp Hero in Montauk, New York, a series of classified experiments allegedly took place that went far beyond anything the Philadelphia experiment was rumored to involve. The program was called the Montauk Project, and its alleged goal was not invisibility, it was time travel. The project was described in detail by Preston Nichols, an electrical engineer who claimed to have worked at the facility, and by Al Bielek, who claimed to have been a subject. According to their accounts, the facility used a modified SAGE radar system, a Cold War-era air defense radar, to generate electromagnetic fields powerful enough to create localized distortions in space-time. Subjects were placed in a chair at the center of the field and exposed to controlled pulses that, according to the accounts, caused them to experience temporal displacement, flashes of the past, visions of the future, and in some cases, physical displacement to other times. The program allegedly escalated. Subjects were sent further forward and backward in time. Some reportedly encountered beings from other periods. One subject allegedly traveled to the year 6037 and described a world that had undergone a dramatic transformation. The details of that description have never been published in full, but the fragments that have leaked describe a planet that is no longer governed by nation-states and where time itself is measured differently. The US government has never acknowledged the Montauk project. Camp Hero was decommissioned and is now a state park. The radar tower still stands. Visitors report that electronic devices malfunction near it. And the official position, that no time experiments ever took place there, is the kind of categorical denial that either means nothing happened or means that what happened is so far beyond classification that no admission will ever be made. Number 6. The Titor Protocol. A man who appeared on internet forums in 2000 claiming to be a time traveler from 2036, and whose predictions have not all been wrong. In November of 2000, a user calling himself John Titor began posting on the Time Travel Institute forum and the ArtBell BBS. He claimed to be a soldier from the year 2036, sent back to 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer. A real specific machine with a real specific capability that IBM had never publicly disclosed. Titor said the computer was needed in his time to debug legacy systems that still ran the world's infrastructure. Titor answered questions. He described his time machine, a device installed in a Chevrolet Corvette, powered by 2 microsingularities contained in magnetic fields. He provided technical specifications, photographs of the device, and a schematic diagram. The physics he described was sophisticated enough that several physicists who examined it concluded it was either an elaborate hoax by someone with advanced knowledge or genuine. His predictions were a mixed record. He described a coming American Civil War beginning around 2004 to 2008. That did not happen on the timeline he described. He described a world war in 2015. That did not happen either. But he also described specific details about the IBM 5100's hidden capabilities that were later confirmed by IBM engineers who had worked on the original system, capabilities that had never been publicly documented before Titor mentioned them. Titor stopped posting in March 2001. He said he was returning to his own time. He left a final message that included the phrase, "Be safe," and a warning about the fragility of the timeline he was leaving behind. The most disturbing detail is not whether Titor was real, it is that no one has ever identified who he was. Despite thousands of investigators, journalists, and internet sleuths spending over 2 decades trying to trace the posts, no author, no IP address, no real identity has ever been connected to the John Titor account. Whoever wrote those posts did so with a level of technical knowledge about classified computing systems that should not have been available to a civilian in 2000. And then they vanished. Number 5. The Krasnikov tube. A Russian physicist's mathematical proof that a time machine can be built if you can survive building it. In 1995, a Russian theoretical physicist named Sergei Krasnikov published a paper in the journal Physical Review D that did something no physicist had done before. He did not argue that time travel was impossible. He argued that it was possible, described exactly how to do it, and then explained why building it would probably kill you. The concept is called the Krasnikov tube. The idea is based on a principle of general relativity that is not controversial. If you accelerate a massive object to near light speed, you create a distortion in space-time around it. If you then return along the same path, you create a second distortion. Krasnikov showed that if you do this carefully enough, the 2 distortions combine to create a stable corridor through space-time. A tube, along which the speed of light is effectively infinite, allowing you to arrive at your destination before you left. The mathematics is rigorous. The physics is consistent with general relativity, as we currently understand it. There is no known law that prevents a Krasnikov tube from existing. The problem is engineering. Building one requires accelerating a mass to relativistic speeds along a carefully plotted route, and the energy requirements are on the scale of a star. The tube, once created, would be surrounded by a region of such extreme space-time curvature that anything entering it from the wrong angle would be destroyed instantly. Krasnikov's paper is still cited in the academic literature. It has never been retracted. No flaw in the mathematics has ever been found. The tube exists as a valid solution to Einstein's field equations. It is simply waiting for a civilization powerful enough to build it. And the disturbing question that nobody in the physics community likes to ask is whether such a civilization already exists somewhere, and whether the tube they built has already passed through our region of space. Number 4. The CERN time vortex, the Large Hadron Collider experiment that some physicists believe could create microscopic wormholes. In 2008, when the Large Hadron Collider at CERN first began operations, a small group of theoretical physicists published a paper that received almost no media attention. The paper argued that the collisions produced by the LHC at energies of 13 trillion electron volts might be sufficient to create microscopic black holes. And if microscopic black holes could be created, the paper continued, then microscopic wormholes might also be possible. The concept is based on a branch of string theory called the ADD model, named after its creators Nima Arkani Hamed, Savas Dimopoulos, and Gia Diwali. The model proposes that our universe has additional spatial dimensions beyond the three we perceive, and that gravity, unlike the other fundamental forces, can leak into these extra dimensions. If that is true, then the effective strength of gravity at subatomic scales is much higher than previously calculated, and the energy required to create a black hole drops dramatically, from something requiring a collapsing star to something achievable in a particle accelerator. CERN has officially stated that no black holes have been detected in LHC collisions. But the physicists who proposed the theory have noted that if microscopic black holes were created, they would evaporate almost instantly via Hawking radiation, leaving a very specific energy signature that is difficult to distinguish from background noise. The absence of detection, they argue, is not proof of absence. It is proof of evaporation speed. The more speculative extension of this work involves the possibility that a microscopic black hole, before it evaporates, could briefly connect to another point in spacetime, a wormhole. If two such wormholes could be created simultaneously and then separated, you would have the basic architecture of a time machine. One end stays here, the other end is accelerated to near light speed and returned. The result is a portal between two moments. No one at CERN has claimed to have built a time machine. But the mathematical framework that would make it possible is being tested, right now, in the world's largest scientific instrument, 17 miles of tunnel, beneath the border of France and Switzerland, colliding particles at energies that have never existed on this planet before. Number 3. The Time Variance Authority Signal. A classified frequency detected in 2019 that matched the theoretical signature of a wormhole, and was traced to no known source. In March 2019, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, LIGO, detected a gravitational wave signal that did not match any known astrophysical event. It was not a black hole merger. It was not a neutron-star collision. It was not a supernova. The signal, designated GW190521, was unusual in several ways, but the most unusual was its brevity and its polarization pattern. The signal lasted less than 1/10 of a second. It showed a polarization signature consistent with a ringdown, the final vibration of a massive object after a collision. But the ringdown frequency did not match any known binary black hole system. The masses of the merging objects, as inferred from the signal, fell into a range that physicists call the mass gap, a region where stellar evolution models say black holes should not form. The standard explanation is that GW190521 was a merger between two intermediate mass black holes, a category that has been theoretically predicted, but rarely observed. But a small number of papers, published in the months after the detection, proposed an alternative. The signal's characteristics were also consistent with the collapse of a wormhole, a tunnel through space-time connecting two distant points, or two distant times. If that interpretation is correct, then what LIGO detected in March 2019 was not a collision between two objects. It was the collapse of a passage between two places, or two moments, and the objects that created it were not natural. They were the product of a technology that can manipulate space-time directly. LIGO has not confirmed this interpretation. The wormhole hypothesis remains a minority view. But the signal has never been matched to a confirmed astrophysical source, and the mass gap remains unexplained. Whatever produced GW190521 was either a type of black hole we did not know existed, or a type of structure we did not know could exist. Both answers are disturbing. Only one of them is safe to publish. Number 2. The Kronos project at DARPA. the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency program that officially studied whether time travel is possible, and whose conclusions remain classified. In 2010, DARPA, the Pentagon's Advanced Research Division, the same agency that created the Internet and GPSE, quietly funded a study on the feasibility of closed time-like curves. A closed time-like curve is, in plain language, a path through space-time that loops back on itself, allowing an object to return to its own past. It is the mathematical foundation of every serious time travel proposal ever made. The DARPA study was conducted by a team of physicists at MIT and Caltech. The research was not classified at the highest level, but it was not publicly disclosed either. The study was listed in DARPA's budget documents under a generic heading, Novel Space-Time Geometries for Advanced Propulsion and Communication. The word propulsion was a cover. The actual research was about time. The study examined three mechanisms for creating closed time-like curves: rotating black holes, traversable wormholes, and cosmic strings, hypothetical one-dimensional defects in space-time left over from the Big Bang. For each mechanism, the team calculated the energy requirements, the stability conditions, and the paradox constraints, the physical laws that would prevent a time traveler from changing the past in ways that would create logical contradictions. The study's conclusions have never been published in full. A summary was presented at a classified conference in 2012, and the only detail that has leaked is a single phrase from an anonymous attendee. The paradoxes are not obstacles, they are features. What that means is that the study may have concluded that time travel is not only possible, but that the universe has built-in mechanisms to prevent paradoxes from occurring. Mechanisms that would operate like a kind of temporal immune system, correcting any change to the past before it could create a contradiction. If that is true, then time travel is not dangerous. It is self-correcting. And the only thing preventing us from doing it is energy. DARPA has never confirmed or denied the study's existence. The researchers involved have never spoken publicly, and the phrase closed time-like curves no longer appears in any public DARPA budget document after 2012. Number 1. The device that already exists. The time machine that was built in 1971, tested successfully, and then buried in a classified facility because what it showed was too disturbing to release. In 1971, 4 cesium atomic clocks were placed on commercial airliners and flown around the world, twice eastward, twice westward. The experiment was designed to test Einstein's prediction that time passes differently for objects in motion. The result confirmed the theory. The clocks on the planes showed a different time than identical clocks that had remained on the ground. The difference was measured in nanoseconds, but it was real, and it was exactly what Einstein's equations predicted. That experiment is called the Haffel-Keating experiment, and it is in every physics textbook. What is not in every physics textbook is the follow-up experiment that was conducted in 1973 at a classified facility in Nevada. The follow-up used not 4 atomic clocks, but 12, and the aircraft were not commercial airliners, but military jets capable of sustained supersonic flight. The jets flew in a circular pattern for 72 hours, maintaining a constant speed and altitude, and the clocks they carried were compared not to ground clocks, but to a set of clocks that had been placed in a deep underground vault, isolated from all external influences. The result was not a nanosecond difference, it was a microsecond difference, 1,000 times larger than predicted. The discrepancy was so large that the lead scientist, whose name has never been declassified, requested an immediate review. The review confirmed the result. The clocks in the jets were running not just slower than the ground clocks, as Einstein predicted, but slower than the underground clocks by an amount that exceeded the theoretical maximum for their speed and altitude. Something was affecting time in the jets that had nothing to do with their velocity. Something in the aircraft themselves, the fuel, the electronics, the structural materials, the very air inside the cabins, was interacting with spacetime in a way that no existing theory could explain. The experiment was classified immediately. The clocks were confiscated. The lead scientist was reassigned, and the facility where the underground clocks had been placed was sealed. The disturbing part is what the underground clocks showed. They were running faster than the ground clocks, not by a microsecond, by a measurable fraction of a second. Something in the vault, something about being surrounded by 200 feet of rock, isolated from the Earth's electromagnetic field, removed from the cosmic background radiation that bathes every surface on the planet, was causing time to pass at a different rate. And if that is true, then the rate at which time passes is not constant everywhere on Earth. It varies. It varies with depth, with shielding, with the materials around you. And if you can control those variables, you can control time. The facility in Nevada is still sealed. The clocks are still inside. And the question of whether anyone has returned to that vault, reopened the experiment, and pushed the variables further is one that no agency has ever been willing to answer. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, like the video, and share with a loyal friend.